Hi there. Well, I said I was going to relaunch on the 24th, and I am. Technically, in some regards, that doesn't mean anything different to some degree. I chose this day for a reason. It's my birthday. So I am going to officially announce why, what's new. I'll always take appointments. If you want to start your healing process today, cool. Let's talk about that. I can fit you into the calendar. We're good to go. Um, So that aspect is not new, except with the fact that the program now is very, very improved to the point where I can now make a manual around that so I can teach others how to do the very same thing. And it creates a bit of stability so that every client will have an optimal healing experience, the best that I can give you. And so for me, that means that I continue to learn, and I am, until said day when my business is going to require that I step away from doing one on one, even though I will probably always have a couple on the side just because I like doing this work. Anyway, so the program is definitely improved from what it was a few years ago, even, and will always be so as I continue to learn new things and dots connect and science learns more about neuroscience, and we learn how to work with our nervous system, if it's effective, I will include those things in the program. So the program is now completely nailed down. It's still a year long, which wasn't the case before 2019. Here's where because during the pandemic, it wasn't my experience to heal in a weekend workshop. I only learned how to tremor. I only learned how to do the actual exercises to start the tremor and stop the tremor. That was all I learned. And for dealing with childhood trauma, that is not enough. And so my experience was I was with between my two providers over a year. And so that's the format of the program. It is a year-long program. It is broken up into 6 modules in which we focus on A, tools that are more appropriate to trauma, and B, we have better focus in that we don't focus on the trauma, and that creates a better outcome, a better trauma healing experience for the client. So in that regard, that's not new. I'm going to sister along with that, and I have resisted for years creating a course. I've changed my mind on that, and I decided to create something that is hybrid. Now, you are perhaps looking at this, and welcome. Thanks for being here. A recording of this, because according to that, nobody's live, nobody's watching this. So you're watching a recording. This would be a course rather than you and I in a program, because if you're in Texas or Florida or even California, Taiwan, okay, this would be how we would do this live still, but this is how we would do this. If you're watching a recording, it's going to be tougher to ask me questions, so forth and so on. So I created something new, and that course is going to be hybrid. It is the same as the program. It's a year long, same module, same everything. And it includes the documentation. I put that on on Heartbeat. It's a platform for courses and communities. And communities, yes, you heard that. The course will be there. The community will also be there. So what's this community business? Well, there's a couple things that I've learned over the years, and that is that as we heal, we might feel a bit alone. I know that's how I felt. Now, fortunately, I had a partner I was living with that understood what was going on. It's going through the training with me, the whole shot. That was helpful. I can't tell you how helpful that was to have a safe environment in which to heal. Now, had I been living by myself, okay, still got the safe environment, but there's a lot of things going on that I can't bounce people off. And in Dr. Briselli's training programs, we had, well, I had my provider to bounce off of, and eventually then that began to move into, then I started getting training for being a provider myself, and then that opened up a whole new community, which was okay. If you're in the midst of healing, it's nice to have a community of people of like mind going through somewhat the same experience, the same healing experience anyway. Now, here's the advantage of having a community. One of them, anyway. It helps you to begin to develop relationships with people because that is one area where we suffered for any number of reasons. It could be the shame, it could be feeling like an imposter, it could be this, that, or the other thing. If people really saw how I was on the inside versus how I look on the outside, they wouldn't like me very much. We call that shame. And so we avoid any type of in-depth stuff. And so I created a community for those who are A, in the program, and B, in the course. And that gives them an opportunity to begin to develop relationships with people who are going through the same experience. And then afterwards. Now, ultimately, my hope here is that after even the year-long course is not going to heal your trauma completely. That might take a few years, but you'll have a foundation under your feet under which, and while you're building that foundation, you are going to learn how to build your own house, your home, you. So here's unnecessary but the community then is a little bit of continuous care in a bigger sense, and it's aftercare. So if you have questions, now here's why it's a hybrid, because even though you're looking at a video, I will be checking in live with all of the people in the program anyway, because that's a weekly live thing. The course, then I'll check in with them on a regular basis so I can show my face, so they know who I am. I want to know who they are, who you are. That's important to me. This is important. This is important. And so I get to check in with people. How you doing? Really? Tell me about your family, where that can fit in and be appropriate, and so forth and so on. That allows for and then I can answer questions. And that gives the relationship between the provider and the client more actual living experience, rather than you having to type questions to somebody or thinking it's going to me and then some staff member answers it. You don't have any assurance of who that staff member is or how well they're trained or so forth and so on. Now, I don't want to segue yet, but this is a segue. As the company grows, as I envision it, I will still be checking in. I might not be answering the questions. Okay. But because I have this sense about who I want to work for me and with me in Raise Your Resilience, those people will have gone through the same program you are going through, or the same course, same thing. They will have to have that to be able to work with me. Because if they don't know trauma, they certainly can't answer your questions. If they don't know how to heal trauma, they certainly cannot answer your questions. So that will at least be the foundation of their experience and education. Okay. So that is some of the new stuff that's going on. We've got the improved program, we've got the course, and we've got the aftercare community. I'll just call it that for now. So what about the company itself? Well, here's where some changes have been made, and here's where my vision is going. I finally got a hold of a business development counselor. Her name is Christine Hines. She was so beneficial. I cannot say thank you enough. And so first thing she said is, can I see your business plan? Who needed a business plan? Well, Rather sheepishly, I raised my hand, said, I do. And so we worked on developing a business plan. And along the way, guess what I learned? I learned a lot. One of the things I learned was how big the vision could be. Now, I was taught by Dr. Berselli. He was not my provider. He was my instructor. So he was the one who taught me the tremoring exercises, and it still to this day teaches me a lot about this whole experience of tremoring. It's amazing. And he's got a pretty big organization. I want to say it this way. I am doing what I think he could have done. And I don't think that Dr. Berselli would be hesitant in saying that he's not a businessman. In fact, if you want, I mean, man, this guy knows tremoring. This is what he loves to do. I've heard him say it more than 1,000,000 times. That's what he loves to do. He loves to watch people. He gets them together. He just gets excited about this. When he has a room full of people, he doesn't care who's going through what in the room because he can hold that container. He's that good. He is that good. And he is very, very good. So I thought, well, wait a minute. Because he said to me, and this was in 2014, I believe, when we were down in Portland at the Advanced, he did a video of me, but that might even be on my website. But anyway, he was doing and this was how we got the business name, Raise Your Resilience, because that's the focus. We're not focusing on the trauma. We're focusing on raising resilience. And so he wanted to do a video, and we're doing this video. And somewhere in that weekend, he said to me, if you want to heal trauma, no, if you want to change the world, heal trauma. And whoa, that really impacted me. Because who doesn't want to live by, be the change you want to see, right? Maybe most of us have posted that somewhere. Be the change you want to see. Okay, cool. If I want to change now, I could build the case. If I had the time, I could build the case that trauma is the number one health problem on the planet. And I'm not talking about traumatic events, because events are not trauma. Trauma is a neurophysiological state. Basically, being stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. It's pretty simple, actually. What that all means, though, oh boy, that can get kind of complex. And the process out of that is, again, kind of simple, but kind of complex. Now you know why 2 sessions won't do that, 2 weeks won't do that, 2 months won't do that. It'll take a few years. Because it can be a bit complex. And so to bring our body back to where it was before trauma started is going to be a challenge and a half. But if you want to live an extraordinary life, heal your trauma. I had no idea back then when Dr. Berselli was talking to me and said, if you want to change the world, heal trauma, how extraordinary life could be. Oh my goodness. In every way, shape, and form. And I'm talking about belief systems, feelings, cognitions, your financial life. I mean, yeah, let's get down to the rubber meets the road kind of thing. Oh man, being an entrepreneur, being this, that, or the other thing, being a good lover, being a warrior, magician, king, lover. Now, those are the 4 male, and there's female equivalents to that. Who knew? Dr. Berselli doesn't talk about that stuff. I do. So, another one of those needless so's. Where the company is going then is because of how big this issue is. I finally realized that when he said to me, if you want to change the world, well, I am now taking that seriously. So Raise Your Resilience is going to be a franchise organization. In other words, what happens when somebody catches the vision? They also want to help others heal their trauma. I will train them how to do that. Their franchise fee will be paying for the training, and then there will be royalties afterwards, 4% of their sales. Okay. I, or the organization, which will eventually have vice presidents and here, there, and everywhere, be in charge of developing marketing materials, all that kind of stuff, so that the franchisee does not have to do that. They will not have to recreate the wheel. I will be looking at them for a couple things. Well, I'll just say one for now, and that is, since they will know their local area better, they will be able to help us inform some of their marketing. Makes sense, right? You know your people better than I do. So cool. Let us help you shape marketing, but brand consistency, all that kind of stuff. That will all be the same. And we get to modify that to however the franchisee feels that might fit their particular audience even better. Right on. Otherwise, we control all that from here, wherever here happens to land. Right now, it'd be right here in Whidbey Island in Langley. So, again, this whole idea, I mean, and Dr. Berselli doesn't do anything, well, he does, it's a little different. So if you go to his website, you can see all the providers, and they've got their own businesses. And how many of us had to recreate the wheel of marketing and presentations and stuff like this and stuff like that? Yeah, I'm late in the game, but guess what? I'm going to try to make this happen because I want to do two things. A, I want to see people healed. If I want to change the world, I want to heal trauma, which is very curable. It's his quote, trauma is curable, comes from Dr. Levine's book, Healing Trauma. Surprising. But second of all, I want to become a national figure in that, in terms of having a provider in at least every state and more than one. But I want to be able to speak to how our systems, our political system, could think about this. If I could build the case, again, going back to how trauma, how pervasive it is, I could build the case that upwards of 3/4 of the population are traumatized. I don't think we have to look too far politically to see how true that is. How are we going to change that? By putting more traumatized people in and have a better veneer? No. Being the change. So there's two things. One, healing individual trauma so that the future has a future. I won't be here for that. I'm hoping some of my providers will. Oh, I had a temporary blank spot. Cool. Anyway, I will not be here for that. The other part then is, kind of lost my train of thought there. Anyway, part of the reason for that is because I will not be here, I want to have something that will be in motion on its own, whatever physics word fits that. I'm trying to set something in motion so that we can speak to the powers and say, listen, what you're doing is creating trauma. It's starting to happen at the educational realms now. So when the kids freaking out in the classroom, the behavior is not necessarily, hey, quit being such a jerk. There's something else going on, and it's probably at home. So that's it's starting to happen educationally, but boy, I think that's the only system. The medical system is way messed up. There are political systems for the poor and all the rest of that just are shaming beyond belief. We have soldiers who are coming out of the military system who are getting poor care from the VA. Okay, we say 22 of them kill themselves every day. Eventually, that pool is going to dry up. That is inexcusable and unacceptable. And that number is likely higher because when they did the poll to find out this information, they asked all the military bases around the United States to answer this poll. And only, I think the number was less than half, and none of the military bases in California or Texas answered that poll. And they still came up with 22 a day. I don't know about you, but A, that's grossly absurd, and B, shocking and painful and unacceptable. How do we speak to this? Well, as an individual, I have little. If you were a provider, you would have little. If we pooled our resources together, and this is what I'm going to kind of expect to happen, it's one of the visions I have, part of the vision, that as a company, as we grow, there will be providers who will have skills, and then I want them to become part of the organization, and that's where they'll get their income from. We then will have, and I will speak to certain issues because that's been my experience. I would then expect perhaps that another female provider overheard, this is her experience. Cool. We're going to, or anyway, she gets to speak to that. This guy down there gets to speak to that. We get to individualize that to some degree, but we as an organization will be speaking to those issues, to those systems. Will that bring change to those systems? Probably not in our lifetime. But let's start collecting those. And this is where we start to collaborate with other voices. Yeah, I saw that. We start to collaborate with other resources to have an even louder voice. So that is very, very new. And actually, I'm still looking. I've got my several books on franchising, what that even means, all the legal requirements. And yes, there are some. And this would have normally scared the crap out of it to the point I wouldn't have done it. But now I'm seeing that this might be the best way to go. Because eventually, when I do go, I want those who are Raise Your Resilience apart from me to buy Raise Your Resilience so that they now have a piece of this pie that will not just provide for them, but continue as an organization to speak to this very, very important issue of healing trauma in this world. There's how many billions of us? I'll say it this way: Raise Your Resilience, right, might run out of momentum before we've scratched the varnish on the paint on the problem. I'm hoping that in this momentum, starting this thing, we'll start to gather up resources and kind of collect a trail behind like a comet, so that eventually we can impact enough of the systems of the world to seriously make a change in the way we live on this planet. That's kind of my vision. I can't do that sitting here in my office doing, maybe 40 people a week. That's not going to happen. So, am I going to accomplish this? I'm going to give it my best shot. I have a little sticker here that says, bring your A game. I'm going to bring my A game. And my A game is always going to improve. So that's the long and the short of it. Anyway, this is the reopening of the doors of Raise Your Resilience. The website isn't quite there yet, only because, the program's there. The course is not quite there yet because I won't put it on there. I will advertise it on there, but the course is on a different platform. I'm still making the videos for that. One of the reasons I created the course was because, I want to talk about my pricing for a few minutes. If you look at my pricing, and I've had this said to me, you're too cheap. Okay, cool. Guess what? I can still make a living at that. Am I going to be a millionaire? Not by that. However, I can be comfortable. Okay, really? That's, I'll take comfortable if you don't mind. Now, here's the thing. How many, I could raise my prices to $3, $4, $5,000 a month. How many of you could afford that? So I took a lesson from Henry Ford because he realized that he needed to have all of the guys in his warehouse making his cars to be able to afford his cars. So he did something, decided to simplify how things were done down on the floor so that it made the vehicle cheaper to be affordable. Part of the issue with the trauma healing that we have on this planet is that we now have this huge disparity in wealth. There's a wealth gap, and the people at the bottom who represent the most are not gaining ground much. It needs to be affordable for them. And I created the course, which is cheaper than the program, because even in that group, there will be those who can afford the program, and then there are those who cannot. I'm more interested in getting the highest quality to the most people that I can. And honestly, there's nothing like this on the planet yet. I anticipate there will be those who copy it. I don't care. Honestly, they can try, but they don't have my trademarks for one thing, and they don't have me for another. And heck, this is already timestamped. So what the heck? I'm moving forward. If you want to be a part of that, that's fine. If you have questions, cool. Ask. That's what I'm here for. So I'm going to leave it at that. That was a long-winded, but not necessarily. It explains a lot that needed to be explained. The doors are open. If you want to be a part of this journey, let's talk, because the problem is huge, and there's not enough of us doing the work. Have yourselves a great week. I'll be around. Bye.